Pearls. Get up and don't cry. We don't ask her. Wang Jianqi looked at Kai Pearl, who was kneeling on the ground with a pop, and his heart was very distressed, and the hesitation on his face instantly became firm. Lin Die looked at the two people in front of her. One was crying and trembling, leaning on the man's arms weakly, and the other was coaxing in a gentle whisper. The spoiled look was really spicy. Hey, what about men? If they don't have a heart, no matter how strong a woman is, no matter how beautiful she is, it's useless. Lin Die knew where the fat beauty had lost, not so much losing to Kai Pearl as losing to this man. Lin Die, I have already called home, and our matter will be resolved. Wang Jianqi stood up with Kai Pearl in his arms, turned his head to look at Lin Die. His face was cold and emotionless. Lin Die smiled faintly. No matter what you say, you have to make a marriage report tomorrow. Also, I advise you to pay attention to the influence. Although you and I only set up a banquet and did not have the same room, but it is much more justifiable than the two of you. You. Wang Jianqi looked at Lin Die with a gloomy face, and he didn't know that he thought he wanted to strangle Lin Die. Lin Die looked at Wang Jianqi with a smile. That look made people a little angry, and Wang Jianjian's momentum weakened a little. Let's go. Wang Jianqi hugged Kai Pearl and turned to leave. Kai Pearl turned around in Wang Jianjian's arms, and looked at Lin Die pitifully. Die, I beg you, fulfill us, we really love each other, I really can't live without him. Not perfectly. It's just that there's no man, and it's not a loss. Body, there is nothing that can't live. Butterfly girl. We don't ask her, let's go. Kai Pearl looked at Wang Jianqi and then at the beautiful girl, and when she turned her head, a touch of resoluteness flashed in her eyes. The beautiful girl pursed her lips and smiled. The fish has taken the bait, and I can't cure you if I don't believe it. Wang Jianqi hugged Kai Pearl and opened the door. There was a person standing outside the door. Wang Jianqi was stunned for a moment. He had seen this person. This person had been with the first person in the past few days. Growing up together, sometimes going to their factory, he doesn't know who he is, but this person is not a simple character at first glance. Wang Jianqi hurriedly put down the arm on Kai Juju's body and nodded at the man. The man didn't say a word, his body avoided the door. Wang Jianqi looked at it, didn't dare to say anything, and left directly with Kai Juju. Kai Pearl glanced back at the man, and a trace of greed flashed in his eyes. The man was more than 118 tall, with broad shoulders and long legs, a straight figure, obviously a man, but his skin was white and moist, not rough at all. His facial features were not exquisite, but he was angular, his eyes were deep, his lips were pursed, and his temperament was indescribably precious. If you use modern words, it is a beautiful man who is abstinent. Pity. Kai Pearl suppressed the stupidity in her heart. Stupid. Desire. Moving thoughts, she glanced at Wang Jianjian. This person is the key to her changing her fate. Chu Junshu walked into the ward and put the fruit, canned food, and wheat milk in his hand. Sperm is placed on the table. First. Chief, let me piggyback on you. Lin Die glanced at Chu Junshu. This person was the one who stood at the head that day. The young man next to her, who looked at her with some intriguing eyes, looked a little demonic, which made people can't help but be excited, but the eyes were too deep, as deep as the vast universe, mysterious and dangerous. Such a person. Oh, it doesn't matter what kind of person he is, it has nothing to do with her. Help me thank you, Chief. Thank you for the piggyback, too. Chu Junshu turned around and left, and his undescriptive appearance made Lin Die feel funny. Lin Die raised the corners of her mouth slightly, but when she saw that person suddenly turned around, Lin Die hurriedly lowered the corners of her mouth, and looked at the person who turned around and stood in the center of the ground expressionlessly. Why do you have to rely on him? Rely on him? Who? Wang Jianjian? Lin Die looked at Chu Junshu suspiciously. This person won't stand at the door all the time and eavesdrop, right? This behavior. It's really not in his image. Lin Die imagined that scene, and couldn't help but smile and raise her eyebrows. Don't rely on him. Who will marry me? You? Chu Juanshu's face darkened, turned around, and left quickly. There was a crisp laugh behind him. Made his steps faster and faster, his face became darker and darker, and he couldn't help but be annoyed why he was talking too much. Nurse Xiaoqian looked at Chu Junshu, who left in a hurry, and then looked at Lin Die, who was laughing, thinking about Deputy Director Wang, and then thinking about that strange woman. She couldn't help howling in her heart, "I am a good girl, she can be regarded as an eye-opener today." "What do you want?" "I think you are different from the rumors. I think Deputy Director Wang turned out to be such a person. I think that person just now turned out to be." Nurse Xiaoqian reacted in hindsight and hurriedly stopped talking. "I'm sorry, there are too many things beyond my imagination today. Hearing is false, seeing is believing. You're still young, you'll understand later." "Ha ha ha, Lin Die, you're so funny. I'm 5 years older than you, I'm still young?" "Ha ha ha." Lin Die glanced at her. "Hey, the ignorant are not guilty, you're old lady, I have lived for 2 lifetimes. During the lunch break, Lin Die took advantage of Dr. Zhao's inability to check the post, secretly ran out, and went straight to the guest house near Unit 7302. The fat girl has not been in the army for a long time, and during this time, there are many people who are not used to the fat girl. There are many reasons. Some people are judged by their appearance, some people are upset with the handsome Wang Jianjian, some people are interested in Wang Jianjian, and they are naturally angry with the fat girl who cut off the beard, and some people are simply because others bully the fat girl, and they also bully. The forest is big, there are all kinds of birds, the beauty doesn't care about these. She has always been people who respect me for a foot, I respect people, and people bully me for a cent. But it's strange to say that almost all the people in the hospital don't like chubby girls, but there is one exception. This man was the recorder of the guest house near Unit 7302. The beautiful girl doesn't know what kind of story she has, but, through the memory of the fat girl, she hates all the irresponsible men who split their legs. Wang Jianjian is both irresponsible and out of marriage. The man of the rails, so there is still such a person who disdains him when everyone says that Wang Jianjian is good. "Ingzi. Why are you here? I also said I'll see you later, why did you just run out like that? How is your body recovering? Is it okay to just come out like this?" When Wang Lanying saw Lin Die, she hurriedly walked out from behind the counter, took Lin Die's hand, and asked her to sit on the stool. "It's fine. It looks very serious, and it's all skin trauma. I know you can't do without, I don't need you to see me, I just come to see you. These are the apples and oranges that the dean gave me, and I will bring you a few, eat them quickly, they are sweet." Wang Lanying is not very old, and she is also a little fat, but she is not as fat as a fat girl, she is a little too fat, which does not affect her appearance much, and she looks a little cute. Wang Lanying is a snack seller, and the intersection between the two of them comes from a packet of salted peanuts. "Mainyo, are you okay? Dean Zhang has given you a gift?" Ingzi reached out and picked out the largest apple in the net pocket, and didn't wash it, wiped it with her hand and took a big bite. "I heard, you tossed the people in the factory a lot, and that Li Shuangqin was also cleaned up by you. It's not for me to say, you did a good job this time, and you deserve praise. It's not cleaned up, and it's not done satisfactorily." Mainyo picked up an orange and said while peeling it, "Before, I was too quick and soft-hearted, and I was reluctant to be too cruel to them. What's the use of being soft-hearted to them, they won't show mercy to your men. I saw it this time, you are ruthless, but they are honest, these people just owe it to clean up." The beautiful girl pursed her lips and smiled. "By the way, Ingzi, I have an injury and can't walk away for too long, I want you to help me call the police, I don't know if it's convenient." "What's inconvenient? I'll help you call the police, that Li Shuangqin just didn't clean up. You don't have to have any mental burden, accountant Li has someone in their family, Li Shuangqin will be taught a lesson, but it won't be too serious." Such. Okay, too. Beauty, there's one thing, I don't know if to say it or not. Wang Lanying glanced at Lin Die twice, a little hesitant. "Say, there's something we two can't say. Mainyo, last night, Wang Jianqi sent a person, a woman. Wang Leining whispered mysteriously. Lin Jie smiled. That's it, you don't know why I was admitted to the hospital, right? How could I not know that the family homes have spread all over the world? That woman is that little girl? Well, Wang Jianqi took her to see me this morning. My God, Wang Jianqi is very bold. And he led them to you? They're also too deceitful. Wang Leining frowned, and her face was a little ugly. Eyebrows, I'm not angry, what are you angry about? You're not angry? They're blatant. No, some people don't deserve it. Ingzi, please do something. What's the matter? You said. Whatever I can do for you. Wang Leining patted her chest. Dried meat. I dug a pit for Kai Pearl this morning. If she still wants to be with Wang Jianjian, she will definitely take action tonight. I want you to turn a blind eye to them, I'm going to catch them. Wang Leining looked at Lin Jie in a daze, and blinked her eyes for a long time. What do you mean? What else can they do tonight? No, beauty, what kind of pit did you dig for them? It's nothing, it's just a force, and then hint at it. That's it? That's all. Then they can do that and that? Can't you? This is no small matter. Believe me, that woman is not an ordinary person, and Wang Jianqi is not a good bird. That's two. No, I'm going to eat another apple to crush the shock. Wang Leining reached out and picked up another apple. This time she didn't even wipe it, and took a bite directly. I believe you. How to do it, say it, I listen to you. However, Mainyo, you have thought about it, this matter is not small, if you don't get it right, Wang Jianqi will be fired from the factory. No, I'll fulfill them. Lin Jie said lightly. Wang Jianjian's popularity in the factory is good, and he was personally introduced by some leaders. Many people don't know about this. The chubby beauty doesn't know, but Lin Jie knows a little. In the original book, it is introduced that Wang Jianjian's second uncle is kind to a certain leader. Wang Jianjian's second uncle was a soldier, participated in many battles, and saved leaders on the battlefield. Second uncle Wang's eldest son, Wang Jianguo, and his brother's son, Wang Jianjian, were able to leave the ravine and come to work so far away, because of the help of this leader. Wang Jianqi and Wang Jianguo work in the same factory. The factory is a militarized management, and the army is a related unit, and the two units are close to each other, so Wang Jianqi and Wang Jianguo are the two dog's tail flowers in the hearts of their factory and the family area of Unit 7302. Both of them are good-looking, they are both excellent, and they both have to be valued by the leadership. However, relatives are far and near, and friends are thick. Compared with Wang Jianjian, that leader prefers Wang Jianguo. This can be seen between the lines in the original book. Wang Jianguo's current position is also the director of the workshop, but this director is not the director, and over time, Wang Jianguo will definitely achieve extraordinary. It's a pity that if it's not the protagonist, how can it cover the light of the protagonist? In that book, at the beginning of the story, Wang Jianguo was already injured and stayed at home to recuperate. Then, he became lame and could not do the work in the factory, so he had to go home to farm. Since then, the resources of the Wang family have been placed on Wang Jianqi alone, so that he can walk smoothly in the future. These are all later words, and now, Lin Jie takes a fancy to this. Wang Jianqi will not cause a big incident if he causes trouble. She wants Wang Jianqi to take the initiative to admit her mistakes and personally solve her family problems. However, he can't let him go home, at least, he can't go home now, otherwise, Kai Pearl doesn't want him, and Wang Jianqi has to mix with her again, which will kill her. Beauty, do you really want to fulfill them? Well, the twisted melon is not sweet, I see it, and I won't hold on to him, but the wrong side will definitely not be me. Beauty, you just let them go so easily? Ingzi, letting them go is also letting go of yourself. What's more, without matchmaking, this is not a small matter. Mainyo, even so, you are also the one who has held a banquet, you. Wang Leining wanted to speak and stopped. Lin Jie smiled indifferently. It's okay, isn't it that you haven't had sex yet? As long as today's matter is done, I will let Kai Pearl kneel and beg me, and I will let Wang Jianqi personally admit my mistake in front of the villagers and elders. If there are still people who say this, then, I admit it. Okay, as long as you think about it, I'll help you. I don't believe I can't catch them. This time, if he doesn't die, he will let him shed his skin. Cheng, Yingzi, then I'll leave this matter to you. You'll see. Leave me a spare room, I'll come over in the evening, and we'll be together. Okay, I'll leave you 1 and 102, the one next to the woman. Okay. Manyo nodded, I'll go first, and I'll come back in the evening. Okay. You take this bag of fruit back to eat. I originally wanted to work with people this afternoon, but since you're here, I won't go and show you those two shameless things here. Wang Laniying took out a net of fruit from under the counter, which seemed to have been prepared for a long time. Seeing her such actions, Lin Jie's heart warmed. You keep it to eat, I still have it. I bought it for you, what do I eat like? Lin Jie smiled, I'll take it, and then I'll take it back at night? What to toss? The two of us didn't say it. I have received your wishes, put the things here for you first, and I will come over in the evening, and we will eat together. Wang Laniying looked at the fruit in her hand, thought for a while, and said, that's okay. Come early in the evening, I'll wait for you. Okay. Along the route of the wall, he walked back to the hospital quickly, and sneaked back to the ward while the doctors and nurses had not yet checked the post. Lin Jie sat on the bed, looked at the birds flying by in front of the window, and smiled slightly. Today is the third day that Lin Jie has lived in the hospital, and because of what happened on the first day, no one in the hospital came to look for trouble. Lin Jie's ward is relatively remote and relatively quiet. Dr. Zhao and Nurse Xiaoqian also went to their respective businesses after checking the room. Lin Jie glanced at the wooden door, got up and plugged in the deadbolt. Turn around and move a chair and sit by the window, basking in the sun while looking through the contents of the purse necklace. The most piled up in the purse necklace are vegetables, fruits, and grains. These things are in the bracelet space. The girl said that when the injuries on her body are healed, the soul and this body are completely compatible with the space. Since this is why I put so many of these things in the storage bag. Lin Jie didn't understand very much, but he didn't care too much, picked the biggest and reddest tomato, followed Wang Laniying's example, wiped it with his hand and began to eat. I was amazed by the first bite of it, so how to describe the taste? Sweet to just right, a little more is too much, a little less is too little, and with a hint of sourness, not much but very flavorful. The fruit is super fresh, the meat is super thick, and the juice is very much. The wonderful taste of eating in the mouth fills the mouth, and people want to bite off their tongues. Head. Chewing carefully, swallowing slowly, a wisp of indescribable things slowly sliding down the esophagus, that feeling, it is simply indescribable. If this kind of thing comes out. Lin Jie thought of Kai Pearl's space, and instantly strangled this thought to death. She better not cause trouble. Kai Pearl didn't like her in the first book, she didn't pit fat beauties in the original book. If Kai Pearl knew that she had this kind of thing in her hand, then she wouldn't have to rivet her to death. To say that this little girl is also quite interesting, I was afraid that she would follow the old path of a fat beauty, so he told her to stay away from Wang Jianjian, afraid that she would not have any skills. He left her a medical book, was afraid that she was in danger, so he left her a book of martial arts secrets. It's quite thoughtful, but I forgot to tell her that the things in the space can't be taken out. Or are these things not so unusual in the eyes of little girls? The beautiful girl is becoming more and more curious about the hometown of the little girl. Lin Jie was reading quietly in the room, but she didn't know that there was a mess outside. Lin Jie asked Yingzi to help her call the police. When Yingzi made a phone call to the relevant departments, the factory received the news. Li Shuangqin was so frightened that she cried. Li Shuangqin's mother was so angry that she scolded. Li Shuangqin's father hurriedly asked someone to inquire about the situation, and the answer he got was that Lin Jie really called the police. When Li Shuangqin's father hurried to the military health center, he wanted to have a good talk with Lin Jie, but he didn't even enter the door of the health center. He is different from Wang Jianjian, after all. Wang Jianqi is Lin Die's nominal man, and the man in charge of the family can naturally come in if he wants to see his own woman. Of course, when Li Shuangqin's father found Wang Jianjian, hoping to meet Lin Die through him, it was too late. Because the army also knew about Li Shuangqin, and also knew that Wang Jianqi and Kai Pearl had come this morning, and that something like that happened with the patient, the military health center had not allowed Wang Jianqi to bring people in to disturb the patient again. Therefore, the wind is surging outside, but Lin Die is calm here. All afternoon, Lin Die spent the whole afternoon reading books, during which Nurse Xiaoqian came over once, holding fruits and canned food in her hands. Lin Die glanced at her suspiciously, and Nurse Xiaoqian smiled and said, "This is what the sisters-in-law in the factory bought for you." The beautiful girl's eyes widened. "This is really strange, those people will buy her things?" Seeming to see what Lin Die meant, Nurse Xiaoqian said with a smile, "The sisters-in-law who came over that day were all criticized, and their men were not very happy, so let them come over to visit the patient and apologize to you." "What about the man?" Lin Die glanced at Nurse Xiaoqian. "Those sisters-in-law have a terrible mouth, and Ding Zhang was afraid of disturbing your rest, so he stopped people at the door and didn't let them in." Lin Die turned her head to look out the window. It turns out that the health center has begun to manage the flow of personnel, which is very good, no one disturbs, and no one adds to her blockage, just right, she can read quietly. Xiaoqian looked at Lin Die, who didn't care, and couldn't help but smile. "There's already a commotion outside?" "What?" Lin Die looked at Nurse Xiaoqian suspiciously. "Someone from the relevant department came to investigate the matter between Li Shuangqin and you. Maybe they will come here in a while." "Oh. Come here, come here." She didn't want to do anything to anyone when she first arrived, but it was impossible to bully her. Before dinner, Dr. Zhao walked in with a few people in uniform. At this time Lin Die had no dizziness, headache, nausea at all, some skin injuries had already scabbed, and the shallow wounds had even begun to fall off. After the personnel of the relevant departments made the record, they looked at Lin Die and stopped talking. Lin Die looked at him and didn't ask questions first. "Comrade Lin Die, Li Shuangqin's behavior is indeed bad, but the result is not so serious. It can be said that the final result of this matter depends on your attitude." Lin Die smiled, looked at the staff member, and said, "Li Shuangqin's father has looked for you, right?" The man was stunned for a moment, and then smiled. "Mingren doesn't say secret words. Li Shuangqin's father did find our bureau through a friend, but Comrade Lin Die, please rest assured, we will definitely act impartially and will not show favoritism." "You want me to open up, right?"